Jason Simpson's heart races as he steps off the interstellar transport onto Hazari soil. The alien world's purple sky and twin moons loom overhead, a stark reminder of his critical mission. He clutches his genetic sequencing kit, acutely aware that humanity's future rests in his hands, and potentially his reproductive organs. The Human Hazari Alliance research facility looms before him, a gleaming testament to both species' technological prowess. As Jason approaches, he can't shake the weight of Earth's latest transmission. Human birth rates have plummeted below sustainable levels. The controversial interspecies breeding program he's about to enter is now humanity's last hope for survival. Security scanners hum as Jason enters the facility. The air thrums with tension and possibility. He's ushered into a sterile laboratory where he comes face to face with Yara, his Hazari research partner. Her iridescent skin shimmers under the harsh lights, telepathic tendrils twitching with what Jason interprets as excitement. "Welcome, Jason," Yara says, her melodic voice tinged with an otherworldly resonance. "I've been eagerly anticipating your arrival." Before Jason can respond, a holographic projection materializes. The stern faces of the Hazari High Council fill the room. "Human Simpson, you must understand the gravity of this endeavor," one counselor intones. "Our species share a unique biological compatibility. The offspring of human and Hazari union may be the key to both our survival." Jason nods, his mouth dry. The counselor continues. "However, be warned. A radical separatist group opposes this program. They view genetic mixing as an abomination. Your safety cannot be guaranteed." As the projection fades, Yara steps closer. Her large, opalescent eyes lock onto Jason's. "There's something else you should know," she says softly. "I've been chosen as the first Hazari to attempt conception with a human. That human is you." Jason's mind reels. He'd known his role would be hands-on, but the reality of intimate contact with an alien being hits him full force. He struggles to reconcile his scientific objectivity with the raw, primal nature of what's being asked of him. Yara seems to sense his internal conflict. "I know this is overwhelming," she says, a telepathic wave of reassurance washing over him. "But I'm fascinated by human physiology. I can't wait to explore our compatibility." An alarm blares, cutting through the charged atmosphere. "Security alert," an automated voice announces. "Possible separatist activity detected near the facility perimeter." Jason's adrenaline spikes. The clock is ticking. With extremists closing in and humanity's fate hanging in the balance, he realizes there's no time for hesitation. He meets Yara's gaze, seeing his own mix of fear and determination reflected in her alien features. "Well," Jason says, summoning every ounce of courage, "I guess it's time to save our species. Where do we start?" Jason's words hang in the air as the facility's alarm continues to blare. Yara's tendrils twitch, her iridescent skin pulsing with an otherworldly glow. "Follow me," she says, her melodic voice cutting through the chaos. "We need to get you to a secure area." They rush through winding corridors, passing Hazari scientists and human researchers scrambling to their designated safe zones. Jason clutches his genetic sequencing kit, acutely aware of its importance in this unfolding crisis. As they reach a reinforced laboratory, Dr. Krell, a tall, willowy Hazari male, ushers them inside. "The separatists haven't breached the facility yet," he explains, his multifaceted eyes scanning a holographic display. "But we can't take any chances." The door seals with a hiss, and Jason finds himself in a sterile environment filled with advanced equipment. Yara places a comforting hand on his shoulder, sending a telepathic wave of reassurance. "While we're here, we might as well begin your preliminary examinations," she suggests. Jason nods, his heart still racing from their hasty retreat. He follows Yara to a sleek medical pod, its surface pulsing with soft blue light. As he lies down, the pod comes to life, enveloping him in a cocoon of advanced Hazari technology. "This won't hurt a bit," Yara assures him, her fingers dancing over a control panel. "We're just going to run a full bioscan to ensure your compatibility with Hazari physiology." As the scan progresses, Dr. Krell's eyes widen in surprise. "Fascinating," he murmurs, studying the results. Jason, your body is producing a unique enzyme we've never encountered before. It appears to have properties that could potentially boost Hazari fertility rates. Jason sits up, his mind turning from the implications. What does this mean for the program? Yara's tendrils quiver with excitement. It means you're even more valuable than we initially thought. This enzyme could be the key to not just human survival, but to solving the Hazari's own fertility crisis. The weight of this revelation settles on Jason's shoulders. He's no longer just a participant in an interspecies breeding program. He's a potential savior for two civilizations. As the security alert is lifted, Jason and Yara find themselves drawn into a series of informal, cultural exchange sessions. In a quiet corner of the lab, Yara demonstrates the intricate gestures of a traditional Hazari greeting ritual. Like this? Jason asks, attempting to mimic the fluid movements of her iridescent fingers. Yara laughs, a sound like tinkling crystals. Close, but not quite. Here, let me show you. She takes his hands in hers, guiding him through the motions. The touch of her alien skin sends an unexpected shiver down Jason's spine. In turn, Jason explains human customs, from handshakes to hugs. Yara listens intently, her large opalescent eyes fixed on him with rapt attention. Humans express so much through physical contact, she observes. It's quite different from our telepathic communication. As days pass, their sessions become longer, more intimate. Jason finds himself captivated by the way Yara's skin shimmers in different lights, the graceful movement of her telepathic tendrils. For her part, Yara becomes increasingly curious about human physical intimacy, peppering Jason with questions about kissing, caressing, and other forms of touch. Their growing attraction doesn't go unnoticed. Dr. Krell pulls Jason aside one day, his expression serious. Remember, Mr. Simpson, this is a scientific endeavor. Don't let your personal feelings interfere with the mission. Jason nods, but can't shake the conflicting emotions swirling within him. He's here to save humanity, not fall for an alien being. And yet, every moment with Yara feels charged with possibility. As the day of their first mating attempt approaches, the research team unveils a specialized chamber designed for optimal interspecies breeding conditions. Its sleek organic curves house advanced gravity adjusters, and atmospheric controls. This chamber will simulate the perfect environment for both human and Hazari physiology, Dr. Krell explains, leading them on a tour. It's our best chance for a successful conception. Jason's anxiety spikes as he takes in the clinical nature of the setup. This is really happening. He's about to attempt to mate with an alien being, all in the name of saving two species. The night before the scheduled attempt, a minor equipment malfunction triggers a facility-wide lockdown. Jason and Yara find themselves trapped in a small laboratory, the close quarters amplifying the tension between them. I'm nervous, Jason admits, pacing the limited space. What if it doesn't work? What if I can't perform? Yara moves closer, her tendrils reaching out to brush his cheek. Jason, she says softly, we're in this together. Whatever happens, we'll face it as one. The air between them crackles with unspoken desire. Jason leans in, drawn by an irresistible force. Their lips are mere inches apart when a loud beep signals the end of the lockdown. They spring apart, the moment broken, but not forgotten. As they exit the lab, a grim-faced security officer approaches. The malfunction was sabotage, he reports. We have evidence of separatist involvement. The news sends shockwaves through the facility. The Hazari High Council, unwilling to risk further interference, makes a swift decision. Jason and Yara are summoned to Dr. Krell's office, where they receive their new orders. We can't afford any more delays, Dr. Krell states, his tone brooking no argument. The first mating attempt will proceed in 24 hours. Jason and Yara exchange glances, a mix of anticipation and apprehension passing between them. As they leave the office, Yara's tendrils brush against Jason's hand, sending a clear telepathic message. We're ready for this. With the clock ticking down, Jason and Yara enter the specialized mating chamber. The door seals behind them with a soft hiss, leaving them alone in an environment meticulously crafted for their unique union. As they face each other, the weight of two civilizations' hopes rests squarely on their shoulders. As the door seals behind them with a soft hiss, Jason and Yara stand face to face in the specialized mating chamber. The weight of their mission hangs heavy in the air, amplified by the sudden silence. Ambient lighting softens, casting a warm glow across their features. Jason takes a deep breath, inhaling the carefully calibrated atmosphere. He can taste the familiar notes of Earth's air mingled with something alien, yet not unpleasant, the essence of Hazari. Initiating final preparations, Dr. Krell's voice crackles through the chamber's communication system. Remember, this is more than just an experiment. The future of both our species may depend on your success. As the doctor's voice fades, leaving them truly alone, Jason feels his heart racing. He looks at Yara, her iridescent skin shimmering under the gentle light. Her large, opalescent eyes meet his, reflecting a mix of anticipation and uncertainty. I'm not sure how to begin, Jason admits, his voice barely above a whisper. Yara's telepathic tendrils twitch, sensing his apprehension. She steps closer, her movements fluid and graceful. "Let me show you something," she says softly, her melodic voice soothing his nerves. She raises her hands, palms facing outward. "This is a Hazari relaxation technique. It helps center our minds and bodies before important tasks." Jason mimics her stance, following her lead as she guides him through a series of slow, deliberate movements. As they move in unison, he feels the tension in his muscles begin to uncoil. "Breathe deeply," Yara instructs, her own chest rising and falling in a steady rhythm. "Feel the air filling your lungs, then release it slowly." As they continue the exercise, Jason becomes acutely aware of Yara's proximity. The scent of her skin, reminiscent of exotic flowers, fills his nostrils. He notices the way her iridescent skin seems to pulse with an inner light, each movement creating a mesmerizing play of colors. Yara, in turn, finds herself captivated by Jason's form. Her eyes trace the contours of his muscles, so different from the willowy build of Hazari males. She's struck by an overwhelming urge to touch him, to explore the alien terrain of his body. As if reading her thoughts, Jason lowers his hands, letting them hover uncertainly at his sides. Yara takes the initiative, reaching out to place her palm against his chest. Her touch is cool, sending a shiver through his body. "Your heart," she murmurs. "It beats so quickly." Jason nods, words failing him as Yara's hand begins to move, tracing patterns across his skin. Her touch leaves a trail of tingling sensations in its wake, a mild euphoria blooming in his mind. Emboldened by her exploration, Jason reaches out to caress Yara's arm. Her skin is impossibly smooth, with a texture unlike anything he's ever felt. As his fingers glide over her iridescent surface, he's amazed to see it glow brighter at his touch. Yara lets out a soft gasp, her eyes widening. "Your heat," she breathes. "It creates the most exquisite sensation." Their initial hesitation melting away, Jason and Yara draw closer. Their hands roam freely now, each touch a new discovery. Jason marvels at the graceful curve of Yara's neck, the elegant sweep of her shoulders. Yara's fingers dance across Jason's back, mapping the unfamiliar landscape of his spine. As their exploration intensifies, so too does their arousal. The clinical nature of their encounter fades, replaced by genuine passion. Their bodies press together, alien and human flesh intertwining in a dance as old as life itself. Unbeknownst to the couple, their vital signs flash across monitors in the control room. Dr. Krell and his team watch with growing excitement as the data streams in. The unique enzyme produced by Jason's body is having an even greater effect than they'd hoped, interacting with Yara's physiology in ways they'd never predicted. Back in the chamber, Jason and Yara lose themselves in the moment. Their movements become more urgent, driven by a primal need that transcends species. As they reach the pinnacle of their union, a surge of energy courses through them both. The chamber's sensors light up, detecting an unexpected spike in electromagnetic activity. The air itself seems to crackle with potential, centered on the joined couple. In the aftermath, Jason and Yara lie entwined, their bodies cooling as they catch their breath. But even as the physical sensations fade, they're struck by a new, shared awareness. Images flood their minds, visions of a future where humans and Hazari work side by side, exploring the far reaches of the galaxy. As they bask in the afterglow of their encounter and the wonder of their shared vision, alarms begin to blare outside the chamber. The facility's security systems have detected incoming threats. The Separatists, emboldened by the success of the mating attempt, are launching an all-out assault. Jason and Yara exchange a look of concern, their moment of peace shattered by the harsh reality of their situation. As they prepare to face whatever comes next, they know that their actions have set in motion events that will reshape the future of both their species. The chamber door slides open, revealing Dr. Krell's anxious face. "Quickly," he urges, "we must get you to safety. The Separatists are—" His words are cut off by a distant explosion. The future they've fought so hard to create hangs in the balance, threatened by those who fear the unknown. As Jason and Yara step out of the chamber, hand in hand, they know that their journey, in their fight, is nowhere near the end. The chamber door slides open, revealing Dr. Krell's anxious face. "Quickly," he urges, "we must get you to safety. The Separatists are—" His words are cut off by a distant explosion that rocks the facility. Alarms blare, their piercing wails echoing through the corridors. Jason and Yara exchange a worried glance before hurriedly following Dr. Krell out of the mating chamber. As they rush through the winding hallways, the gravity of the situation becomes apparent. Security personnel sprint past them, weapons drawn, their faces set in unshakable focus. The air crackles with tension and the acrid smell of smoke. "What's happening?" Jason asks, supporting Yara as she stumbles, still weak from their intense encounter. Dr. Krell's voice is tight with stress. "The Separatists have launched a full-scale attack on the facility. They must have learned about the success of your mating attempt." Another explosion, closer this time, sends tremors through the floor. Debris rains down from the ceiling, forcing them to shield their heads as they run. Yara suddenly doubles over, a wave of nausea hitting her. "I don't feel right," she gasps, her iridescent skin paling. Dr. Krell's eyes widen. "Fascinating," he murmurs, pulling out a handheld scanner. "It seems the mating has triggered an accelerated reproductive cycle. Yara, you're already showing signs of early pregnancy." Jason's head spins at this news. "But how?" "No time to explain," Dr. Krell interrupts, ushering them into a secure area. "We need to get you both off-world immediately." Inside the fortified room, a team of researchers hurriedly packs equipment and data drives. Among them is a Hazari security officer, his uniform torn and bloodied. "This is Zorn," Dr. Krell introduces quickly. "He'll help escort us to the evacuation shuttle." Zorn eyes Jason warily, but nods in acknowledgement. "The Separatists have breached the outer defenses," he reports. "We must move quickly." As the group prepares to leave, Jason notices Yara's discomfort. Her normally graceful movements are sluggish, her skin fluctuating between various hues. He takes her hand, feeling a surge of protectiveness. "I'm here," he whispers. "We'll get through this together." Zorn leads the way, his weapon at the ready. They navigate through smoke-filled corridors, the sounds of battle growing closer. Twice they're forced to take cover as Separatist forces storm nearby sections. During a brief moment of respite, Zorn turns to Jason. "I didn't trust you at first, human," he admits. "But if what they say about your child is true, you may be the key to saving both our species." Before Jason can respond, a group of Separatists rounds the corner. Zorn reacts instantly, firing his weapon and creating a path for the others to run. "Go!" he shouts. "I'll hold them off!" They sprint towards the shuttle bay, the sacrifice of Zorn weighing heavily on them. As they reach the final corridor, Yara stumbles again, crying out in pain. "The pregnancy," Dr. Krell explains hurriedly. "It's progressing faster than I anticipated. We need to get her to the medical facilities on the outpost immediately." They burst into the shuttle bay amidst chaos. Separatist forces have breached the area, exchanging fire with the facility's security. Dr. Krell points to a sleek vessel at the far end. "There's our transport!" Jason scoops Yara into his arms, her slight form trembling against his chest. They make a mad dash for the shuttle, energy blasts sizzling past them. The research team provides covering fire as they board, the hatch sealing behind them with a reassuring hiss. The shuttle lifts off, shuddering as it takes hits from Separatist weapons. Through the viewports, Jason and Yara watch in horror as explosions consume the facility they've called home for months. As they break atmosphere, the full scale of the conflict becomes apparent. The Hazari homeworld is a patchwork of lights and dark zones, evidence of the widespread uprising. Dr. Krell receives a transmission from the Hazari High Council. "We're being redirected," he announces. "There's a classified research outpost on a remote moon in a neighboring system. We'll be safe there to continue our work and monitor Yara's pregnancy." Jason holds Yara close as Dr. Krell runs more tests, confirming the accelerated gestation. "At this rate," the doctor muses, "we could be looking at a matter of weeks rather than months." As the shuttle hurtles through space, leaving behind a world in turmoil, Jason and Yara cling to each other. Their union has set in motion events that will reshape the future of both their species, and the child growing rapidly within Yara represents hope in the face of uncertainty. The journey to the secret outpost is tense, filled with the beeping of medical equipment and hushed conversations among the research team. Jason never leaves Yara's side, marveling at the changes already visible in her body. As they approach their destination, a transmission from Earth breaks the uneasy calm. Dr. Krell's face pales as he listens, then turns to the group. "The backup plan, the cryogenic preservation of human genetic material. There's been a catastrophic accident. It's all been lost." The weight of this news settles over the shuttle. Jason looks down at Yara, at her swollen abdomen, realizing that their unborn child may now be the last hope for preserving human genes. The shuttle begins its descent towards the hidden research base, a structure barely visible against the cratered surface of the moon. As they touch down, Jason helps Yara to her feet, supporting her as they prepare to disembark. "Welcome to your new home," Dr. Krell says solemnly as the hatch opens, revealing a state-of-the-art facility built into the side of a massive crater. Jason and Yara step out onto the lunar surface, the reality of their situation sinking in. This remote outpost will be their sanctuary, their prison, and the birthplace of a child that could change everything. As they're led inside by a team of eager scientists, the couple exchanges a look of commitment mixed with fear. Behind them, the shuttle powers down, its engines cooling in the thin atmosphere. And far away on the Hazari homeworld, the separatist leader Vex rallies his forces, vowing to hunt down the human and his alien mate. The battle for the future of two species has only just begun. The stark contrast between the lunar landscape and the bustling research facility was jarring as Jason and Yara were led inside. The couple moved slowly, Jason supporting Yara's increasingly unsteady steps. "This way," Dr. Krell directed, guiding them through a series of airlocks and into a large circular chamber filled with advanced medical equipment. "We need to begin monitoring Yara's condition immediately." As Yara settled onto an examination table, Jason couldn't help but notice the rapid changes in her body. Her abdomen had visibly swollen in the short time since their arrival. The iridescent skin stretched taut over the growing life within. "Remarkable," Dr. Krell murmured, studying the readouts on a nearby screen. "The fetus is developing at an unprecedented rate. At this pace, we could be looking at a birth within days, not weeks." Jason's head spun with the implications. "Is that safe? For Yara and the baby?" Before Dr. Krell could respond, a stern-faced Hazari male entered the room, his uniform denoting a high rank. "Dr. Krell, we have a situation," he announced, his voice low and urgent. "Ah, Commander Thax," Dr. Krell acknowledged. "What seems to be the problem?" Thax's eyes darted to Jason and Yara before he continued. "Our long-range sensors have detected an incoming Hazari vessel. Initial scans suggest it's a scout ship, likely sent by the Separatists." The atmosphere in the room instantly tensed. Jason instinctively moved closer to Yara, who had paled at the news. "We're implementing emergency protocols," Thax continued. "All non-essential systems are being powered down, and we're activating our cloaking technology. Everyone needs to move to the emergency shelters immediately." As if on cue, alarms began to blare throughout the facility. The medical staff sprang into action, preparing Yara for transport. Jason helped her onto a hovering stretcher, his mind racing with questions and fears. They were quickly ushered through a series of winding corridors, descending deeper into the moon's crust. The group finally arrived at a large, reinforced door that slid open to reveal a cramped, dimly lit space. "Welcome to your home for the foreseeable future," Thax announced grimly as they filed in. The shelter was a far cry from the advanced medical bay they had just left. Rows of narrow bunks lined the walls, with minimal amenities scattered throughout the space. Jason helped Yara settle onto one of the lower bunks, noting the discomfort on her face. As the last of the facility's inhabitants entered, the heavy door sealed with a resounding thud. The air grew thick with tension and the mingled breath of too many bodies in too small a space. "Listen up," Thax called out, his voice cutting through the murmurs of concern. "We're in complete lockdown. Our cloaking technology should keep us hidden, but we need to minimize all activity. That means no unnecessary movement, no loud noises, and absolutely no unauthorized communications." Jason's attention was drawn away from Thax's briefing by a sudden gasp from Yara. Her skin was fluctuating rapidly between various hues, a sign of extreme distress in Hazari physiology. "Dr. Krell," Jason called out, panic rising in his voice. "Something's wrong with Yara." The doctor rushed over, his scanner already in hand. As he ran it over Yara's body, his eyes widened in surprise. "Fascinating," he muttered. "It seems the accelerated pregnancy is having an unexpected effect on her telepathic abilities. They're amplifying." No sooner had the words left his mouth than Jason felt a wave of sensation wash over him. Emotions not his own flooded his mind. Fear, excitement, arousal, all mingling together in a dizzying cocktail. Looking around, he saw similar expressions of shock and confusion on the faces of the other shelter occupants. "She's broadcasting," Dr. Krell explained. His voice strained as he too fought against the onslaught of projected emotions. "The hormonal surges from the pregnancy are strengthening her natural telepathic abilities. She's inadvertently sharing her sensations with everyone in range." The already tense atmosphere in the shelter shifted, taking on a charged, almost electric quality. Jason could feel the eyes of the other inhabitants on him and Yara, curiosity and something more primal evident in their gazes. It was then that he noticed 3 Hazari females watching him intently. They stood out from the others, their postures more confident, their gazes more direct. One of them, a willowy figure with intricate markings on her skin, stepped forward. "I'm Lyra," she introduced herself, her voice low and melodic. "I specialize in xenogenetics. These are Nava and Kira," she gestured to her companions. "We've been selected to participate in the next phase of the breeding program." Jason's mind reeled at the implications. He opened his mouth to respond, but was cut off by a sudden tremor that shook the shelter. Commander Thax's voice rang out, tense and controlled. "The Separatist scout ship has entered orbit. Everyone maintain absolute silence. Our lives and the future of both our species depend on it." As the occupants of the shelter held their collective breath, Yara let out a low moan of pain. Her abdomen visibly contracted, and a fresh wave of sensation washed over the group. The first pangs of labor had begun, months ahead of schedule. Jason found himself torn, caught between the need to comfort Yara and the sudden, overwhelming urge to respond to the 3 Hazari females' unspoken invitation. The fate of 2 species hung in the balance, and the choices made in the next few moments would shape the course of history. Above them, unaware of the drama unfolding beneath the moon's surface, the Separatist scout ship began its methodical scan, seeking any sign of the hidden human Hazari alliance. As the shelter trembled under the Separatist scout ship's proximity, Yara's labor intensified. Her body convulsed, sending waves of psychic energy rippling through the cramped space. Jason gripped her hand tightly, his eyes darting between his mate and the concerned faces of those around them. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. Commander Thax's voice crackled over the intercom, tense and urgent. "Attention all personnel. We have a critical situation. The energy emissions from the hybrid fetus, combined with Yara's heightened telepathic broadcast, are threatening to penetrate our cloaking technology. We must initiate emergency evacuation protocols immediately." The shelter erupted into controlled chaos. Dr. Krell sprang into action, barking orders to his medical team. "We need to set up a makeshift delivery room here. Now! Sterilize whatever surfaces you can find. We don't have much time. Jason found himself torn between the need to assist Yara and the urgent whispers of Lyra, Nava, and Kira. The three Hazari females approached him, their eyes filled with a mix of purpose and fear. Lyra spoke quickly, her voice low. Jason, we must consider the future of the breeding program. If we're discovered... A sharp cry from Yara cut through the air, drawing Jason back to her side. He made his choice in that moment, focusing entirely on his mate and their unborn child. As the medical team worked frantically to create a sterile environment, Commander Thax implemented his diversionary tactic. The shelter shuddered as a series of unmanned probes launched from the base, each designed to mimic the unique energy signature of the hybrid fetus. Dr. Krell positioned himself at the foot of Yara's makeshift bed, his face a mask of concentration. The fetus's hybrid nature is complicating the birth process, he announced, his voice strained. Jason, I need your assistance. Your human physiology may provide unexpected benefits in managing this delivery. Following Dr. Krell's instructions, Jason began a series of carefully timed physical maneuvers, supporting Yara's body as it struggled to adapt to the rapidly changing physiology of their child. Yara's skin flickered through a kaleidoscope of colors, her pain broadcasting in waves that left everyone in the shelter gasping. Above them, the Separatist scout ship took the bait, veering off to pursue one of the decoy probes. But their respite was short-lived. The ship's commander, Zex, grew suspicious of the multiple energy signatures and ordered a more thorough scan of the moon's surface. As Yara's labor reached its climax, the base's security team worked desperately to reinforce the failing cloaking field. The air in the shelter grew thick with tension and the mingled sweat of its occupants. With a final, tremendous push and a surge of psychic energy that momentarily overloaded the base's systems, Yara gave birth to a healthy hybrid child. The newborn's first cry coincided with a massive power fluctuation, causing a brief but noticeable disruption in the cloaking field. Jason cradled the tiny being in his arms, marveling at the perfect blend of human and Hazari features. But there was no time for wonder. The Separatist ship had detected the fluctuation and was now on a direct course for the moon base. Commander Thax's voice rang out once more, tinged with urgency. All personnel, proceed to the emergency escape vessels immediately. This is not a drill. Move quickly and calmly. As the base's occupants rushed to evacuate, Lyra approached Jason once more, her expression resolute. Jason, we have one last chance to preserve the future of both our species. We need to harvest and cryogenically store your genetic material before we leave. It's our only insurance if we're captured. Jason looked down at Yara, pale and exhausted on the stretcher, then at their newborn child. The weight of the decision pressed down on him as the first explosions rocked the facility. Do it, he said firmly, but make it quick. In a flurry of activity, Lyra and her team swiftly extracted and preserved samples of Jason's genetic material. The procedure was barely complete when Commander Thax burst into the room. We're out of time, he shouted over the sound of distant battle. To the escape pods, now! Jason helped guide Yara's stretcher as they raced through the corridors, their newborn child clutched tightly to his chest. They reached the launch bay just as another explosion shook the facility. As they boarded the last escape pod, Jason caught a glimpse of the moon base erupting in a series of controlled detonations, a final measure to protect their research from the Separatists. The pod's hatch sealed with a hiss, and they were thrust into the void of space. Through the view screen, Jason watched as other escape pods scattered in various directions, implementing their prearranged evasion plan. Holding Yara close, their child nestled between them, Jason felt the weight of their uncertain future. As their pod engaged its stealth systems and charted a course for an unknown destination, he knew that their journey and their fight for survival had only just begun. As their pod engaged its stealth systems and charted a course for an unknown destination, Jason held his breath, acutely aware of the precious cargo he carried. Hours passed in tense silence, broken only by the occasional whimper from their newborn and the soft beeps of the pod's navigation system. Jason alternated between tending to Yara, still weak from the ordeal of birth, and monitoring their progress through the vast expanse of space. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, a series of coded chirps emanated from the pod's communication array. They had reached the rendezvous point. Through the view screen, Jason spotted other escape pods converging on their location, their sleek forms barely visible against the backdrop of unfamiliar stars. As they approached a massive structure looming in the distance, Commander Thax's voice crackled over the intercom. "All personnel, prepare for docking procedures. We've arrived at our safe haven." The space station that greeted them was a marvel of alien engineering, its design unlike anything Jason had ever seen. As their pod maneuvered into a docking bay, he marveled at the intricate patterns etched into the station's exterior, hinting at the advanced civilization that had once called this place home. With a gentle thud, their pod connected to the station. The hatch hissed open, revealing Commander Thax waiting for them, his face a mix of relief and willpower. "Welcome aboard," he said, helping Jason guide Yara's stretcher out of the pod. "Dr. Krell has already begun setting up a medical bay. Let's get you there immediately." As they moved through the station's corridors, Jason was struck by the eerie quiet. The ancient structure seemed to absorb sound, creating an atmosphere of hushed anticipation. Slowly but surely, signs of life began to emerge as other survivors from their base trickled in, each group wide-eyed with a combination of wonder and wariness. In the makeshift medical bay, Dr. Krell wasted no time in examining Yara and the baby. His fingers flew over unfamiliar consoles, coaxing the alien technology to life. "Fascinating," he muttered, studying the readouts. "The child's hybrid physiology is unlike anything I've ever seen. The rate of cellular division, it's extraordinary." Jason leaned in, his curiosity piqued. "What does that mean, Doctor?" Dr. Krell's eyes gleamed with excitement. "It means, Mr. Thompson, that your daughter is developing at an unprecedented rate. Weeks of growth in mere hours. We'll need to monitor her closely." As if on cue, the infant, whom Jason and Yara had decided to name Zara, stirred in her mother's arms. Her eyes, already more alert than a newborn should be, darted around the room, taking in her surroundings with an unnerving intelligence. Over the next few days, the station hummed with activity. Commander Thax coordinated efforts to bring the ancient systems online, while Nava, the Hazari military strategist, worked tirelessly to implement security protocols. Lyra, the xenogeneticist, threw herself into the task of enhancing the station's cloaking capabilities, often working late into the night cycles. Jason found himself pulled in multiple directions. He divided his time between caring for Yara and Zara, assisting Dr. Krell with his research, and participating in strategy meetings with Commander Thax. The weight of their situation, refugees in an alien outpost pursued by separatist forces, pressed heavily on him. One evening, as Jason cradled a rapidly growing Zara, Lyra approached him. Her expression was a mix of grit and something more primal. "Jason," she began, her voice low, "we need to discuss the continuation of the breeding program. Dr. Krell believes we have a window of opportunity while Yara recovers." Jason felt a flush of heat rise to his face. He glanced at Yara, peacefully sleeping nearby, then back at Lyra. "I understand," he said, his voice thick with conflicting emotions. "What do you propose?" Lyra laid out the plan, carefully timed mating sessions with her, Nava, and Kira, overseen by Dr. Krell to maximize the chances of conception. It was clinical, pragmatic, and yet undeniably intimate. As Jason grappled with this new development, alarms blared throughout the station. Commander Thax's voice rang out over the intercom, urgent and commanding. "All personnel to battle stations. Multiple unidentified vessels have entered the system. Prepare for possible hostile contact." Jason's heart raced as he handed Zara to Kira, who had rushed into the room at the sound of the alarm. He cast one last look at Yara before sprinting towards the control center, the fate of their fragile sanctuary hanging in the balance. As he ran, Jason's mind whirled with the implications of what was to come. The unidentified ships could be their salvation or their doom. Either way, he knew that the next few moments would shape not just their lives, but potentially the future of both human and Hazari civilizations. The control center was a flurry of activity when Jason arrived. Commander Thax stood at the center, barking orders as he studied a holographic display of the approaching vessels. Lyra and Nava flanked him, their faces tense with concentration as they worked to interpret the ancient station's sensor readings. "Report," Thax demanded as Jason joined them. Nava's fingers danced over the controls. "7 ships, Commander. Configuration unknown. They're not matching any known human or Hazari designs." Jason leaned in, studying the holographic shapes. They were sleek, almost organic in design, unlike anything he'd seen before. "Could they be from the same civilization that built this station?" he asked. Lyra shook her head. "Unlikely. The technology signatures are vastly different. These are something else entirely." As they watched, the ships drew closer, their formation tightening. There was a precision to their movements that spoke of intelligence and purpose. "They'll be within hailing range in 3 minutes, Thax announced. "We need to make a decision. Do we reveal ourselves and risk everything, or do we trust in our cloaking technology and hope they pass us by?" The control center fell silent as the weight of the decision pressed down on them. Jason thought of Yara and Zara, of the other survivors scattered throughout the station. He thought of the fragile hope they represented, the potential for a new future, a union of 2 species. "We can't hide forever," he said, his voice steady despite the fear churning in his gut. "Sooner or later, we'll have to take a stand. Maybe this is our chance to find allies." Thax nodded, a grim smile on his face. "I was hoping you'd say that." He turned to the communications officer. "Prepare to broadcast on all frequencies. Let's introduce ourselves to our visitors." As the officer's hands flew over the controls, Jason braced himself. For better or worse, their isolation was about to end. The future, uncertain, terrifying, and full of possibilities, was rushing to meet them head-on. The tension in the control center was palpable as Commander Thax's fingers hovered over the communications array. With a deep breath, he made his decision. "We'll use a limited beacon," Thax announced, his voice steady. "A coded message that only our allies would recognize." Jason watched as Thax input a series of complex algorithms into the system. The ancient machinery hummed to life, sending out a carefully crafted signal into the void. Seconds stretched into minutes as they waited for a response. The silence was broken only by the soft beeping of the station's systems and the nervous shuffling of feet. Suddenly, the communications array crackled to life. A voice, distorted but unmistakably human, filled the control center. "This is Captain Elena Reeves of the Coalition vessel Artemis. We recognize your signal and come in peace. Request permission to dock." A collective sigh of relief swept through the room. Thax's gambit had paid off. "Permission granted, Artemis," Thax responded, his voice betraying a hint of emotion. "Welcome to our humble abode." As the Coalition ships docked with the ancient station, Jason raced to inform Yara of the developments. He found her in their quarters, cradling Zara, who seemed to have grown even in the short time he'd been away. "We have allies," he said, breathless with excitement. "A coalition of human and Hazari loyalists. They've been searching for us." Yara's eyes widened, a mix of hope and apprehension crossing her face. "Is it safe?" she asked, instinctively holding Zara closer. Jason nodded, gently placing a hand on Zara's head. "Thax vetted them. They're here to help." The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity. The station's population nearly doubled as the Coalition members integrated into their makeshift society. Among the new arrivals was Dr. Ilara, a human geneticist whose reputation preceded her. Dr. Krell wasted no time in introducing Dr. Ilara to Zara. The 2 scientists huddled over the child, their expressions a mix of awe and intense concentration as they ran a battery of tests. "Extraordinary," Dr. Ilara murmured, reviewing the results. "The rate of her development is unlike anything I've ever seen. We're witnessing the birth of a new species." As days turned into weeks, the station transformed. Under Thax's leadership, a governing council was established, with representatives from all factions. Jason found himself thrust into a position of responsibility, his unique status as both a key participant in the breeding program and a bridge between human and Hazari cultures, making him an invaluable member of the council. The breeding program expanded rapidly under Dr. Ilara's supervision. More volunteers came forward, Eager to contribute to the future of their new society, Jason continued his role, his days a carefully scheduled rotation of mating sessions and council meetings. One evening, as Jason sat with Yara in the observation deck, watching Zara play with other hybrid children, Dr. Alara approached them. "I have good news," she said, her eyes bright with excitement. "We've developed a treatment that should stabilize Yara's reproductive system. With this, you'll be able to safely carry more hybrid embryos to term." Yara's hand found Jason's, squeezing it tightly. The possibility of expanding their family, of contributing more directly to the future of their people, hung between them like a tangible thing. As the station's population grew, so did the need for resources. The council authorized carefully planned expeditions to nearby systems, each one a calculated risk that could expose their location to enemy forces. It was during one such mission, led by Nava, that they made a crucial discovery. On a distant moon, they found an abandoned Hazari outpost, filled with advanced technology and historical records. These records, Nava reported to the council, her voice trembling with excitement, they contain information about the origins of the conflict with the Separatists. This could change everything. The information sparked a technological renaissance on the station. Human and Hazari engineers worked side by side, integrating their knowledge with the ancient technology that surrounded them. The station's defenses were enhanced, life support systems improved, and new technologies developed that leveraged the unique strengths of hybrid physiology. Months passed, and the station thrived. Relationships blossomed across species lines, creating a complex tapestry of interconnected families. Zara, now physically and mentally equivalent to a 5-year-old, became a symbol of their new society's potential. But their peace was not destined to last. During a routine council meeting, Thax received an urgent communication from their long-range sensors. "We've detected a massive fleet entering the outer reaches of the system," he announced, his face grim. The signatures match Vex's separatist armada. The council chamber erupted into a flurry of activity. As plans were hastily made and orders given, Jason's mind raced. They had come so far, built so much, he couldn't let it all be destroyed. An idea began to form in his mind, wild and ambitious. He thought of the ancient technology that powered the station, of the cloaking fields that had kept them hidden for so long. "What if," he said, his voice cutting through the chaos, "we could use the station's technology to create a massive cloaking field, not just for us, but for an entire planet?" The room fell silent as all eyes turned to Jason. In that moment, as he began to outline his daring plan, the future of their hybrid society hung in the balance. The approaching separatist fleet loomed like a shadow on the horizon. But for the first time since their escape from the moon base, Jason felt a spark of real hope. Hope. The council members leaned in, their eyes fixed on Jason as he began to outline his audacious plan. "The ancient technology that powers this station," Jason explained, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "It's not just a power source. It's a bridge between realities. If we can harness it, amplify it." He paused, looking around the room at the mixture of human and Hazari faces. "We could create a cloaking field large enough to hide an entire planet." The room erupted into a flurry of whispers and exclamations. Commander Thax raised a hand, silencing the council. "It's ambitious," he said, his eyes narrowing as he considered the implications. "But can it be done?" Before Jason could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. The approaching separatist fleet had entered the outer reaches of the system. "We're out of time," Thax announced grimly. "We need to move, now." The next hours were a blur of frantic activity. Jason found himself at the center of a whirlwind of preparations, coordinating efforts between the human and Hazari engineering teams. Dr. Alara and Dr. Krell worked tirelessly, their expertise in genetics proving invaluable as they sought to integrate the unique energy signature of hybrid individuals into the cloaking technology. In the midst of the chaos, Jason caught glimpses of Nava organizing their limited fighting force, her military training evident in every crisp order and strategic decision. The Loyalist ships that had arrived earlier moved into defensive formations around the station, a last line of defense should the cloaking field fail. As the threat loomed ever closer, Jason felt a hand on his shoulder. He turned to see Yara, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and purpose. Zara stood beside her, the young hybrid's growth still astonishing Jason every time he saw her. "We need to talk," Yara said, her voice low. "About the breeding program." Jason nodded, understanding the weight of the decision before them. They huddled with Dr. Alara, discussing the possibility of accelerating the program. The risks were significant, but the potential reward, ensuring the continuation of their new species, was too great to ignore. "We'll do it," Jason said finally, his eyes meeting Yara's. She nodded, squeezing his hand. As the carefully monitored mating sessions began, Jason couldn't help but feel a sense of unreality. The clinical nature of the process contrasted sharply with the looming threat of annihilation. Lyra, Nava, and Kira participated with a fierce dedication, all too aware of the stakes. Amidst the preparations, Zara's abilities continued to develop at an astonishing rate. Now with the mental and physical capabilities of a 10-year-old, she demonstrated an unprecedented ability to interface with the station's ancient technology. "It's remarkable," Dr. Krell murmured, watching as Zara's small hands danced over the control panels, manipulating energy flows with an intuition that surpassed even the most experienced engineers. "She's the key to amplifying the cloaking field's power." As Vex's fleet entered the outer reaches of the star system, tension on the station reached a fever pitch. Jason stood in the control room, his heart pounding as Thax gave the order to activate the experimental cloaking field. The surge of energy was immediate and overwhelming. Every system on the station flickered and died, plunging them into total darkness. For several agonizing minutes, they waited in silence, the only sound the rapid breathing of the assembled crew. When the systems finally came back online, the long-range sensors told a story almost too good to believe. Vex's fleet had altered course, seemingly oblivious to the station's presence. The initial wave of relief was short-lived. As the hours ticked by, it became clear that the enormous energy requirements of the cloaking field were straining the station's resources to their breaking point. "We can't maintain this indefinitely," Thax announced during an emergency council session. "We need to move to Phase 2 of the plan." Jason nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. "Finding a planet suitable for colonization," he said, "and extending the cloaking field to cover it." As scouting missions were hastily organized, a new crisis emerged. The intense energy drain began to cause structural instability in the ancient space station. Non-essential personnel were evacuated to the Loyalist ships, a grim reminder of how precarious their situation had become. It was Zara who provided a temporary solution. Her unique connection to the station's technology allowed her to stabilize the cloaking field, buying them precious time. But the strain on the young hybrid's body was evident, and Jason found himself torn between pride in his daughter's abilities and fear for her well-being. The scouting missions returned with news that was both promising and troubling. They had located a habitable planet within range of the enhanced cloaking field, but it showed signs of a long-abandoned civilization. As preparations for a potential mass evacuation began, long-range sensors detected a new threat. A splinter group had broken off from Vex's main fleet, changing course to head in their general direction. The race against time had begun in earnest. Priority was given to evacuating the hybrid children, essential research data, and key personnel. Jason and Yara worked tirelessly to ensure the safe transport of the hybrid embryos, each one representing a potential future for their new civilization. As the evacuation commenced, the strain on the cloaking field intensified. Zara, pushing her abilities to the limit, worked alongside the engineering team to maintain the field's integrity. Jason watched his daughter with a mixture of awe and fear, knowing that the fate of their entire community now rested on her young shoulders. With Vex's splinter fleet drawing closer and the space station showing signs of imminent collapse, Jason knew they were entering the most critical phase of their journey. As he helped load the last of the hybrid embryos onto the transport ship, he cast one last look at the station that had been their sanctuary. The future of their hybrid civilization hung in the balance, poised between the promise of a new beginning and the threat of annihilation. As the transport ship's engines roared to life, Jason turned his gaze to the stars, wondering what challenges awaited them on the mysterious planet that would become their new home. Home. As the transport ship's engines roared to life, Jason turned his gaze to the stars, wondering what challenges awaited them on the mysterious planet that would become their new sanctuary. The evacuation intensified, transforming the once bustling station into a frantic hive of activity. Jason and Yara found themselves at the heart of the most critical operation, the transfer of hybrid embryos to the Loyalist ships. The process demanded their utmost concentration and care. "Steady," Dr. Alara instructed as Jason delicately placed a stasis pod into its designated compartment. The pod's surface glowed with a soft blue light, indicating the perfect balance of temperature and nutrients for the precious cargo within. Yara monitored the environmental controls, her fingers dancing across the console with practiced precision. "Oxygen levels stable. Temperature optimal," she reported, her voice tight with focus. As they worked, the station shuddered ominously. Jason exchanged a worried glance with Yara before returning to the task at hand. They couldn't afford a single mistake, not with the future of their species at stake. In the control room, Zara stood before a towering array of alien technology, her small form dwarfed by the ancient machinery. Her eyes were closed in concentration, her hands splayed against the control panel. Energy coursed through her body, visible as a faint luminescence beneath her skin. "Zara, honey," Jason called out as he entered the room, his voice filled with concern. "You need to take a break. You're pushing yourself too hard." Zara's eyes fluttered open, revealing irises that glowed with an otherworldly light. "I can't, Dad," she said, her voice strained. "If I disconnect, the cloaking field will fail. We'll be exposed." Yara stepped forward, reaching out to touch their daughter's arm. She flinched at the energy thrumming beneath Zara's skin. "We'll find another way," she pleaded. "Your safety is more important." Before Zara could respond, Commander Thax burst into the room, his face grim. "We've got a problem," he announced. "Vex's fleet has deployed probes. They're designed to detect energy fluctuations. If they get close enough, they'll cut right through our cloaking field." Jason's mind raced, weighing their options. "Can we destroy them before they get that close?" Thax nodded. "Nava's assembling a team now, but it's going to be tight." As if on cue, Nava's voice crackled over the comms. "Strike team ready for deployment, Commander. We'll take out those probes before they know what hit them." Outside the station, a small group of fighters streaked away, their engines flaring bright against the backdrop of space. Jason watched them go, a knot of tension forming in his stomach. So much depended on their success. The Loyalist ships, now fully loaded, began to depart one by one. Each vessel carried a precious cargo of hybrid children, essential personnel, and the cumulative knowledge of their fledgling civilization. Jason felt a mix of relief and apprehension as he watched them vanish into the void, bound for the new world that awaited them. Suddenly, the station lurched violently. Alarms blared as entire sections began to decompress, the ancient structure finally buckling under the strain of maintaining the massive cloaking field. "We need to get to the central core," Dr. Krell shouted over the chaos. "It's the only part of the station that's still stable." As they retreated deeper into the heart of the station, Lyra's voice came over the comms, breathless with excitement. "You're not going to believe this," she said. "We've found something, a hidden chamber, with technology I've never seen before. It looks like some kind of propulsion system." Jason's heart raced at the implications. If they could activate this new system, they might have a chance to escape with the station intact, preserving its invaluable technology for their new colony. But time was running out. The sensors showed Vex's main fleet altering course, zeroing in on their location. The cloaking field was failing, its effectiveness diminishing with each passing moment. In the midst of the crisis, Dr. Alara approached Jason with a desperate proposal. "We've developed an experimental procedure," she explained hurriedly. "It could enhance your body's production of the enzyme that facilitates human Hazari breeding. It's risky, but it could be our best chance at ensuring the viability of future hybrid embryos." Jason looked at Yara, saw the fear and hope mingled in her eyes. He thought of Zara, of the future they were fighting to protect. "Do it," he said firmly. As Jason was prepped for the procedure, Yara took charge of the final evacuation efforts. She organized the remaining personnel into groups, her voice steady as she issued orders and coordinated their departure. In the newly discovered chamber, Lyra and her team worked feverishly to activate the ancient propulsion system. The air crackled with energy as they rerouted power, the station's remaining resources flowing into the alien technology. Suddenly, a massive power surge ripped through the station. The cloaking field flickered and failed, leaving them exposed. In the distance, Vex's fleet began to close in, weapons primed. "We're out of time," Thax barked. "Everyone to the last ship, now!" Jason, still groggy from the procedure, staggered to his feet. He and Yara raced to the control room, where Zara remained connected to the station systems. "Zara, we have to go," Yara pleaded, tugging at their daughter's arm. But Zara seemed trapped, her consciousness entangled with the alien technology. Her eyes were wide, unfocused, her body rigid with the effort of maintaining the connection. Jason stepped forward, placing his hands on Zara's shoulders. "Zara, listen to my voice," he said softly. "Follow it back. Come back to us." Slowly, agonizingly, Zara's eyes cleared. With a gasp, she collapsed into her parents' arms, finally free of the station's grip. They sprinted for the last escape ship, the station crumbling around them. As they boarded, Lyra's voice came over the comms one last time. "Initiating propulsion sequence now!" A blinding light enveloped the station and the remaining ships. Jason felt a moment of weightlessness, a sensation of impossible speed. Then abruptly, they were elsewhere, hurtling through an unfamiliar sector of space. As the light faded, Jason looked out the viewport, searching for signs of their destination. But the stars were strange, unfamiliar. They were off course, lost in an unknown region of the galaxy. The survivors gathered, faces etched with a mixture of relief and uncertainty. They had escaped, but at what cost? As Jason held Yara and Zara close, he knew their journey was nowhere near the end. The challenge of finding their new home and defending it still lay ahead. Ahead still lay before them. The ship shuddered violently, throwing Jason off balance. He steadied himself against the viewport, his eyes widening as he took in the sight before him. The ancient space station, their home and sanctuary for so long, was breaking apart. Massive chunks of metal and debris spun away into the void, trailing sparks and streams of escaping atmosphere. The unstable propulsion field had taken its toll, pushing the station beyond its structural limits. Commander Thax's voice crackled over the intercom, urgent and commanding. "All remaining personnel, evacuate immediately. I repeat, all hands to the ships. This is not a drill." Jason felt Yara's hand on his arm, pulling him away from the viewport. "We need to move," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. Zara clung to her mother's side, her eyes wide with fear and exhaustion. They raced through the corridors, joining the stream of panicked crew members heading for the docking bays. Dr. Alara and Dr. Krell fell in step beside them, each carrying cases of vital research data and equipment. As they reached the modified Hazari cruiser that would serve as their command ship, Jason saw Lyra sprinting towards them, her arms full of salvage components. "The propulsion tech," she gasped, stumbling up the ramp. "I got as much as I could. We might be able to reverse engineer it." Once aboard, Jason strapped himself into a seat, wincing at a sudden wave of discomfort that washed over him. Dr. Alara noticed his grimace and moved to his side, medical scanner in hand. "The enhancement procedure," she murmured, studying the readouts. "It's working faster than we anticipated. Your enzyme production is off the charts." Before Jason could respond, the ship's engines roared to life. Through the view screen, he watched as their small fleet of 5 ships pulled away from the disintegrating station. The vast emptiness of unfamiliar space stretched out before them, simultaneously thrilling and terrifying. Yara took charge, her military training kicking in as she coordinated with the other ships. "Long-range scanners are picking up a nearby star system," she reported. "Several potentially habitable planets. We need to move quickly. Our resources won't last long." As the fleet set course for the nearest planet, Jason felt another wave of discomfort. He gritted his teeth, trying to focus on the task at hand. Dr. Alara hovered nearby, monitoring his condition with a mix of concern and scientific curiosity. The first planet they approached was a swirling mass of toxic gases, clearly uninhabitable. The second seemed promising at first glance, but as they drew closer, the sensors warned of crushing gravitational forces that would make colonization impossible. As they approached the third planet, a buzz of excitement filled the command ship. The long-range scans were picking up signs of artificial structures on the surface. "It could be a trap," Thax warned, his voice grim. Yara shook her head. "We don't have much choice. Our supplies are critical, and the hybrid embryos won't last much longer without proper facilities." She quickly assembled a scouting team, selecting a mix of human and Hazari crew members. Jason watched as Nava, their most experienced scout, led the team to a small, nimble craft designed for planetary landings. As the scouting ship descended towards the planet's surface, the rest of the fleet held position, tension mounting with each passing moment. Jason paced the bridge, ignoring the persistent ache in his body, his mind racing with possibilities and potential dangers. Hours later, Nava's voice crackled over the comms. "You're not going to believe this," she said, her tone a mix of awe and disbelief. "We've found a city. Enormous, advanced, and completely abandoned." As Nava's team transmitted data back to the fleet, the mood aboard the command ship shifted from cautious hope to barely held-back excitement. The city appeared to be a technological marvel, with systems compatible with both human and Hazari physiology. But even as plans for landing and colonization began to take shape, a new crisis emerged. Dr. Krell burst onto the bridge, his normally calm demeanor shattered. "The embryos," he said, his voice tight with urgency, "they're degrading faster than we anticipated. If we don't implant them soon, we'll lose them all." Jason felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. He locked eyes with Dr. Alara, understanding passing between them without words. "The enhancement procedure," he said. "It worked. I'm ready." What followed was a flurry of activity as Dr. Alara prepared a group of Hazari females, including Lyra and Kira, for an emergency mating protocol. Jason steeled himself, pushing aside his physical discomfort and the strangeness of the situation. This was about survival, the continuation of their unique hybrid species. As the mating sessions began, conducted with clinical efficiency in the ship's medical bay, Zara made a breakthrough of her own. Her unique connection to alien technology allowed her to interface with the systems of the abandoned city, activating life support and power grids with unprecedented speed. "It's like it recognizes me," she said, her eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. "Like it was waiting for us." With the city coming to life under Zara's touch, Commander Thax gave the order to begin landing procedures. The fleet began its descent, the prospect of a ready-made home-raising spirits across all 5 ships. But as they entered the planet's atmosphere, their sensors picked up an approaching vessel. Its design was unlike anything they had encountered before, neither human nor Hazari. "Hold position," Thax ordered, his voice tight. "Prepare defensive systems, but do not engage." The unknown ship drew closer, and for a moment it seemed as though all their hopes might be dashed on the brink of salvation. Then a transmission cut through the tense silence, broadcast in an ancient Hazari dialect. As the message was decoded, Jason felt his heart race. The ship belonged to another group of human Hazari hybrids, descendants of a parallel breeding program long thought lost to history. Their leader, a charismatic hybrid named Zorn, claimed ownership of the abandoned city below. Jason exchanged a look with Yara, both of them acutely aware of the delicate situation unfolding before them. The arrival of Zorn's group could be their salvation or their downfall. As the hybrid ship drew alongside their own, Jason squared his shoulders, preparing to face whatever challenges this new encounter might bring. The future of their fledgling society hung in the balance, poised between the promise of a new home and the uncertainty of facing an established hybrid civilization. As the airlock cycled, heralding the arrival of Zorn and his delegation, Jason took a deep breath, ready to navigate the complex web of politics, survival, and the future of human-Hazari relations that lay ahead. The airlock hissed open, revealing Zorn and his delegation. Jason stepped forward, his stance cautious but open. Zorn was an imposing figure, his features a harmonious blend of human and Hazari traits. His eyes, a striking violet, assessed Jason with equal curiosity. "Welcome aboard," Jason said, extending his hand. "I'm Jason, and this is my wife, Yara." Zorn clasped Jason's forearm in a traditional Hazari greeting. "I am Zorn, leader of the Nexus. We've been waiting a long time for this moment." The tension in the room eased slightly as introductions were made. Yara moved closer, her tactical mind already analyzing potential outcomes. "Your arrival is fortuitous," she said. "We're facing a critical situation with our hybrid embryos." Zorn's expression shifted to one of concern. "We detected your distress signals. Our medical technology might be able to help. May we see your facilities?" Dr. Alara stepped forward, her voice urgent. "Time is of the essence. If you can assist, we need to act now." With a nod from Jason, Dr. Alara led Zorn and his medical team to the ship's laboratory. The rest of the delegation remained on the bridge, engaging in rapid discussions about the city below and the merging of their societies. In the lab, Dr. Krell worked feverishly alongside the Nexus scientists. Their advanced equipment hummed to life, scanning the degrading embryos. Jason watched, his enhanced physiology tingling with an unfamiliar energy. "Your genetic modifications are remarkable," one of the Nexus scientists observed, studying Jason's readings. "Combined with our techniques, we might be able to stabilize the embryos." Hours passed in a blur of activity. Jason provided samples, his enhanced enzymes proving crucial to the process. The air crackled with tension as they worked, the fate of their hybrid lineage hanging in the balance. Finally, Dr. Alara looked up, her eyes bright with cautious optimism. "It's working. The embryos are stabilizing." A collective sigh of relief swept through the lab. Jason felt a wave of dizziness, the stress and his recent enhancements taking their toll. Yara was at his side in an instant, supporting him. "We should begin our descent," Thax's voice came over the intercom. "The city's systems are coming online, thanks to Zara's connection." As the fleet began its approach to the planet's surface, Jason and Yara joined Zorn on the bridge. Through the view screen, they watched as the abandoned city came into view. Its sprawling structures gleamed in the alien sunlight, a testament to advanced technology and engineering. "Welcome to New Harmony," Zorn said, his voice filled with pride and hope. "A new beginning for all of us." The landing was smooth, orchestrated by the combined skills of both crews. As they disembarked, Jason was struck by the scale of the city. Towering spires reached into the sky, while wide boulevards stretched into the distance. Zara ran ahead, her eyes glowing with an otherworldly light as she interfaced with the city's systems. "It's incredible," she called back. "The technology here, it's like nothing we've ever seen." Over the next few weeks, the two societies began the complex process of integration. Zorn's people, the Nexus, shared their knowledge of the city's history and systems. In return, Jason's group brought fresh perspectives and new scientific theories. Dr. Alara and the Nexus geneticists worked tirelessly to expand and refine the breeding program. Jason's enhanced physiology became a cornerstone of their research, leading to breakthroughs in hybrid genetics. One morning, as Jason and Yara watched the sunrise over New Harmony, they felt a sense of accomplishment and hope. The city was coming to life around them, filled with the sounds of construction and the chatter of a growing population. "We did it," Yara said softly, leaning into Jason's embrace. "We found a home." Jason nodded, but his expression remained serious. "We have, but our challenges aren't over. We need to establish a government, create laws, build a society that truly embraces both our heritages." As if in response to his words, an alarm sounded from the Central Command Center. Jason and Yara rushed to investigate, finding Zorn and Thax already poring over long-range sensor data. "We've detected a large fleet approaching," Thax reported, his voice grim. "It's Vex." The room fell silent as the implication sank in. Their newfound peace was about to be tested. Jason exchanged a look with Yara and Zorn, seeing his own drive reflected in their eyes. "We've come too far to falter now," Jason said, his voice steady. "Let's show them what we've built here." As New Harmony prepared for the arrival of Vex's fleet, the hybrid society stood united, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The city's defenses hummed to life, a testament to the strength they had found in unity.
If you finished this story, please subscribe and like the video. Then leave a comment that says, "I liked the story," and I will heart every single one of them. It really helps me. Thank you for your time.